We're diving into a story that's often hiding in plain sight. The story of Jesus' own family. We're going to follow their absolutely incredible journey from being his closest skeptics to becoming his most devoted followers.
Now, that's a question that might surprise a lot of people, but the historical texts, they're really clear on this. Far from being an only child, Jesus grew up in what seems to have been a big, pretty typical Jewish family in the small town of Nazareth.
Yep, the Gospels actually name 4 of his brothers and mention that he had sisters too. So you can just imagine this bustling family home where Jesus, as the firstborn, was surrounded by all his younger siblings.
So, what was it really like to grow up in that family, with Jesus as your older brother? Let's take a look at their early years together.
You've got to picture it. These siblings, they grew up in a really devout household, observing all the Jewish traditions. And after his father, Joseph, is presumed to have died, Jesus, as the eldest son, would have stepped up, helping to provide for his mother Mary and all his younger brothers and sisters.
During these, hidden years, he probably seemed like a pretty normal, obedient son and brother. He worked, he learned, but even then, the texts give us this little hint that he had a wisdom that just quietly set him apart from everyone else.
But then, everything changes. Around the age of 30, Jesus starts his public ministry. And the reaction from his own family? Well, it's one of the most surprising and, honestly, one of the most human parts of this whole story. And what's so fascinating here is this huge disconnect. The people back home in Nazareth, and that includes his family, they just couldn't square the ordinary guy they knew, the carpenter, their brother, with this extraordinary public figure who was performing miracles. You know that saying, familiarity breeds contempt? It's kind of like that.
And Jesus himself actually calls this out. He points out that the deepest, most personal skepticism he had to deal with came from right inside his own home. Just think about that for a second. His own household.
So their concern just keeps growing and growing until they start thinking he's causing this massive public scene, attracting all the wrong kinds of attention, and had maybe, lost his senses.
I mean, that is a truly shocking statement, isn't it? The text in Mark's Gospel says his family literally went out to restrain him because they believed he'd gone way too far and was embarrassing them.
The Gospel of John is even more direct. It tells this story where his brothers are sarcastically challenging him, kind of like, hey, if you're so great, why don't you go down to Jerusalem and prove it? You can almost hear the cynicism in their voices, a mix of disbelief and maybe even a little bit of sibling rivalry.
So this family rift, this deep, deep skepticism, it really hits rock bottom during Jesus' greatest crisis. But that crisis, that would also become their ultimate turning point. You have to ask, right? Where were they? Well, the texts are completely silent. His mother Mary was there, a few of his followers were there, but his brothers are nowhere to be found in the story of the crucifixion.
And this moment right here is so telling. Normally, the job of taking care of a widowed mother would fall to the next oldest son. So by giving this sacred duty to a disciple instead, Jesus is sending a pretty clear signal that his brothers were either just not there or not yet believers he could count on. So when you lay it out like this, you see this unbelievable turnaround. This timeline shows a shift that is just staggering, from deep-seated disbelief and being totally absent to absolute 100% devotion.
So you have to ask yourself, what on earth could happen that would take a group of skeptical, maybe even embarrassed siblings and turn them into passionate leaders of a movement they once scorned? The answer? It all comes down to a single world-altering event. This is the key. The Apostle Paul, writing just a couple of decades after it all happened, he lists out the witnesses to the resurrection. And on that short, powerful list is James. A personal one-on-one encounter with his resurrected brother was the catalyst that changed absolutely everything for him and for the rest of the family.
And this change, it wasn't some quiet, private conversion. Oh no, Jesus' brothers became central, foundational figures in the very movement they had once doubted so strongly.
And the transformation is immediate. All of a sudden, right there in the book of Acts, just after the resurrection, you find them at the very heart of the new Christian community in Jerusalem, praying right alongside the apostles. And James, the Lord's brother, his journey is maybe the most dramatic of all. He goes from being the ultimate skeptic to becoming the revered head of the early church in Jerusalem, a pillar, as the Apostle Paul called him. And eventually, he was martyred for the very faith he once questioned. And it wasn't just James. His other brothers also became huge leaders. Jude actually wrote a book that's now in the New Testament, the Epistle of Jude. And Paul mentions that the other brothers became traveling missionaries, spreading the message. I mean, they went all in.
And just listen to this. Listen to how James, his own brother, refers to him now. He doesn't say, "My brother Jesus," not at all. He calls him our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory. The man who once slept under the same roof is now, in his eyes, a divine being to be worshipped. That's a total transformation.
You know, their journey is maybe the most powerful testimony of all. It's an incredible story about how sometimes being too familiar with someone can blind us to their greatness, and how a profound, world-changing truth can ultimately overcome even the deepest and most personal doubt.
Thanks for joining us for this explainer.